observe you doing is we might talk about Christianity, and if you aren't comfortable committing to a historical ideal, you'll start talking about the Spirit moving over the face of the waters, which is obviously a much more mythological ideal, and not quite equivocating them, but moving between them too quickly. And
no, he did mean he should have used equating. That was an equivocation error. Equivocate does not work here. No. But it's not a big deal. Who the f cares?
Which is obviously a much more mythological ideal, and not quite equivocating them, but moving between them too quickly, and not delineating them enough. So if I asked you, do you think that the Spirit moved across the face of the waters, and you said to me something like, I think it's still happening.
Right, that is what I would say.
Hey, fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense.
It always happens. It happened at the beginning of time, and it's always happening.
When somebody says, did the Exodus story happen? Did the Jews enslaved in Egypt break free of their slavery and move to the Promised Land across the desert for 40 years? Did that happen? You have also said, of the Exodus specifically, it's still happening.
Yes.
Now, to me, that's far more inappropriate than saying that the Spirit is still moving across the face of the waters, because I think what people mean there is, do you believe that these people in that time period actually did this in such a way that, for instance, might show up in an archaeological report?
Well, I think that's the simplest answer to that is probably.
Sure, and that's fine too. But
we don't know. To the degree that there's been archaeological investigations into the kinds of biblical narratives that you've described, the archaeological evidence tends to fall on the side of historical accuracy in relationship to the Bible, quite surprisingly often.
Clearly you're...
Wait, hold on. Just to be clear, my understanding is there's zero historical accuracy. Or I'm sorry, there's zero historical evidence for Jews ever mass exiting Jesus, or Christ, Egypt. There's no evidence for any exodus of Jewish people from Egypt, ever. I don't think that's ever been displayed anywhere, archaeologically, historically. I think the Bible is
one of the things.
I think the Bible is the only source for that.
You spent more time in Exodus than probably any person I've ever met in person, right? Clearly the story sort of captivates you and you think it's really important and can reach a lot, right?
Yeah,
of course.
It's an infinitely deep story.
I think most people speaking to you already know that you think that, right? And so when they ask you a question, when they suddenly say to you, but do you think it really happened?
Well, what the hell does that mean?
Oh my, what do you mean? What does it mean? Did it actually factually happen? Like factually in history, were there thousands or tens of thousands or whatever of Jewish people that fled Egypt and crossed the fucking Sinai? Like, did that actually happen? That's pretty obvious what people mean. They're asking you for a material, factual analysis, right? Please explain equivocate to me. Equivocating is when you are trying to obscure the meaning of a particular thing by using something that might be like disingenuously like softer or different generally, right? So like, let's say I say something like, well, last night I kind of got into an argument with my wife and we maybe got a little bit loud at each other. Well, let's say what actually happened was like I screamed at her that she was a stupid cunt, wanted to kill herself immediately, and then I'm going to murder her whole family, right? Somebody said, hold on, you got into an argument and you were loud? A bit of an equivocation, don't you think? That's equivocating.
Think that, right? And so when they ask you a question, when they suddenly say to you, but do you think it really happened?
Well, what the hell does that mean?
You must know that what they mean is what I was talking about a second ago, which is that sort of...
What? Okay, so fine. So it's easy just to turn this around.
It can be used to say someone is avoiding committing to a specific position, which is what Jordan B. No, shut the fuck up. No, that's not what it means. If I say, hold on, sir, it seems like you're equating between these two things. You're equating murder with self-defense or whatever. You wouldn't say you're equivocating murder with I mean, like you could, but it would be like a stretch and it would be a weird thing. You would just say like, it feels like you're equivocating on the murder. It feels like you're equivocating. You wouldn't say equivocating between two. I don't know if I'm not sure if I've ever seen equivocation written properly like that, where you're equivocating between two things. It's the second definition here. We're not talking about the definition. We're talking about the use of the word. I don't think you would generally say you're equivocating between these two things. I just don't think you would say you're trying to equate these two things. And if you plug equate into the sentence, it works a lot more cleanly. It works completely 250. Like
you aren't comfortable committing to a historical ideal, you'll start talking about the Spirit moving over the face of the waters, which is obviously a much more mythological ideal. And not quite equivocating them, but moving between them too quickly.
You're moving between two ideas too quickly, and you're equating this mythological idea with the actual physical reality. You're equating the two of these things, right? And you're moving between them too quickly. That makes perfect sense. You don't move between two things too quickly that you're equivocating, like in a very, very, very abstract sense, maybe, but equate is the word that we're looking for. Equate perfectly maps onto the entire rest of the sentence. You're stretching really, really, really hard here to try to say like, oh, equivocate is a better choice. No. Because in that case, if that's what you want to say, you could say that you could almost use equivocate in every place you use equate, if that's how you want to say it, right? Like, you're equating murder with self-defense? How could you do that? Like, well, you're equivocating murder with self-defense? Well, you kind of are, because you're making one thing sound not as bad as the other. Like, but that's just not. Yeah.
and not delineating them enough. So
The burning bush.
I don't need to know exactly what happened. And they suddenly say to you, but do you think it really happened?
The point of what Peterson is doing is to introduce ambiguity, I think. Yes, and he's introducing ambiguity by equating a physical and a non-physical thing. That's what's happening. Yes.
Well, what the hell does that mean?
You must know that what they mean is what I was talking about a second ago, which is that sort of...
What? Okay, so fine. So it's easy just to turn this around. It's like, okay, what exactly happened in your historical account when Moses encountered the burning bush?
I don't need to know exactly what happened. What I need to know is...
I'm not asking you specifically or attacking you for that.
What I need to know is that if I sort of went to the Egyptian desert at sort of the time that the story is alleged to have taken place in history, would I see a mass movement of Israelites from Egypt into the Promised Land? Would I see people with feet walking through the desert, leaving footprints?
Well, let's take it apart rationally. So,
Oh my God. Alex just asking, like, materially, what do we see? Like, what is the material, physical reality of what we see?
Also understand that when someone's asking that, and like, even if you don't like the question, you must understand what someone's asking.
Oh yes, well, I understand many of the things that they're doing simultaneously.
You must also...
How did it feels like somebody introduced Peterson to philosophy like last week, except for years and years, where every single question, like, did you go to the store yesterday? Well, now that's an interesting question. Yesterday? Well, what do you mean by that? I mean Monday, Tuesday. Today's Tuesday, Monday. Well, it's an interesting question if you really think about it. And when I go somewhere, well, go where? Well, I was in Florida and I was still in Florida when I went there. Have I really moved at all? Or do you mean is my position in the universe changing? I'm like, did you physically walk to the fucking store and go inside and buy shit? Now, when you say buy, some people, consider the stealing of profits from workers to be theft. And can I truly buy with something that I've never actually earned on my own before? Is it not a form of theft to transfer the theft from the worker to the store owner when I purchase things with dollars earned? It just feels like his answer to everything is just the most ridiculous. Can you not contextually understand a single thing that's ever being said to you? Jesus.
Need to know
I'm not asking you specifically or attacking you for that.
What I need to know is that if I...
we're not engaging in an... there are ways that you could meaningfully interrogate presuppositions. Oof. There are ways that you could meaningfully interrogate presuppositions to have an interesting conversation, right? An 18-year-old tells you, I just got out of a 3-year relationship. I feel like my life is over. I think I was in love with her. Well, hold on. You're 18. What do you mean when you say in love, right? It might be good to actually introspect on that. Right? You're young, how you feel about a particular, right? There are times when it's good to critically analyze the foundations of either concepts or even words that we're using, where it makes sense. Like, okay, yeah, right? But there are other times where it's just like pretentious and the purpose isn't like the purpose for interrogating concepts should be to gain insight, not to obfuscate. Right? The purpose should be that when I'm asking these questions, it's because it's actually getting us more insight into the question itself. Not like I'm asking the question just to obfuscate and make the conversation meaningless. It's...
Sort of went to the Egyptian desert at sort of the time that the story is alleged to have taken place in history. Would I see a mass movement of Israelites from Egypt into the Promised Land? Would I see people with feet walking through the desert, leaving footprints?
Well, let's take it apart rationally. So,
but you also understand that when someone's asking that, and even if you don't like the question, you must understand what someone's asking.
Oh yes, I understand many of the things that they're doing simultaneously.
You must also understand that when you then say it's still happening, people just go, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, well, I would say that's not my problem.
But
now, when he says that's not my problem, it is your problem. Remember, the whole point of language is to make things understood to other minds. Otherwise, there's literally no point in language. You're uttering meaningless sounds, right? If I walk around and go, blah, 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 right? And I'm just saying things all day that mean nothing. I'm invoking the concept of like a private language. Like, oh, well, what do these things mean? Nothing. Well, I mean, they mean things to me, but not to anybody else. Okay, then it's meaningless. But in that case, why bother speaking to anybody else at all? The only reason we speak is to, invoke thoughts or evoke thoughts from other people's minds, right? I utter words so that other people think of things in response to what I'm saying. That's the only reason. If nobody can understand what you're saying, then you're engaging in like a fruitless, pointless, absurd, I guess, exercise of just uttering meaninglessness.
It becomes a problem when you understand that someone's asking a quite banal historical question.
Yeah, but you don't get to do that.
But why not?
Because the stories that you're dealing with aren't banal.
I agree, but like
so you can't reduce them to something banal, even if it's what would you call it? Even if it's reassuring. This actually happened. Then what do you do with the burning bush?
So
this actually happened.
One comparison I would make is between this and talking